Hi everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome to podcast
Number 2.
Yeah, in the series
Indeed.
of 8. So,
This week.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed last week's.
Yeah.
I know I did. Getting rid of those
Yeah.
resolutions and...
Yeah, moving on from resolutions.
Well, resolutions have already been done, haven't they?
Been done, forgotten probably for a
no-
lot of people.
I know. and so much has happened since that podcast.
Hasn't it just?
Back in lockdown.
Yeah. Back in lockdown.
How do you feel about that, Matt?
Well, it's easy to get despondent, isn't it? But ultimately, we're all trying to come out of this alive and in one piece. And I think it's another opportunity for us to really reflect on what we can do during this lockdown and changes that we can make and the positive steps that we can take from this, even though it seems so challenging and feel like hitting your head against a brick wall because there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel.
But there's always light at the end of the tunnel.
But absolutely,
It's just our overthinking,
Indeed.
isn't it, that tells us there isn't.
Yeah, very much.
That old parrot on your shoulder,
Yeah,
monkey on your shoulder.
all the negativity. It's not even like it's just. It is. It creates negativity, but we have a choice. We either sit and go doom and gloom. It's not going to change it, or we get on and be proactive and positive and make changes we want to make in our lives and stay in the moment and enjoy this moment, because I'm pretty certain in a couple of years' time, when this is all behind us and everybody's running around like headless chickens, not spending time with the family, not spending time with themselves, not spending time with their animals.
It's good to spend time with yourself.
They'll be, oh my
to know
goodness,
yourself,
if only
isn't it?
I could have a month off.
Absolutely. So I guess what we're saying is resolutions are out the window now. Overthinking doesn't do us any good. You've got a parrot, you've got a monkey, or indeed a mother-in-law on your shoulder. Let them all go.
Yeah.
And just crack on.
Indeed.
It's 2021 now, Matt.
And actually, I think that leads us really well into this week's
Do I need to get
subject.
like the judge's hat on for this and bang down the hammer? Because this week it's
Judgment.
judgments. Yeah, judgments. Judgments
think-
of ourselves, judgments on ourselves, judgments on other people. Judgments. What are judgments? That's an interesting one.
It is. I wonder what resonates with you when you hear the word judgment, or whether you're a judgmental person.
I think I used to be a judgmental person. I think that I was very, very much judgmental on myself, about how I went about things, how I would be perceived. You know, years ago, it was really been a case of working at that to let that go. Because I do think judgment, being judgmental, does key into ego very much so, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think, our ego comes in because we're worried about what other people are thinking and what their view will be on us. And that's all about us wondering and perceiving what their judgment is going to be. So being judgmental for me is deflective. You're deflecting away from maybe what you're judging about yourself, and you're putting it on to judging other people. And the reality is you're judging what you perceive to be something you're lacking as a person or in your life.
Absolutely. So look, we're the perfect partnership. We're here to help people, encourage people and guide people wherever we can when they come to us with their partnerships with their horses. So let's look at that through the point of view of the partnerships with the horses. Yeah. So what kind of things, Matt, do you come up against where people are being judgmental? Shall we start with the way they are with their horses, perhaps?
Well, it's such a wide field, but some of these things are so common that I see all the time. And so a lot of the time when I see people being quite tough with their horse, shall we say, and
what do you mean by tough?
Right. Sometimes physically, and sometimes in their opinion, the way they talk about their horse.
Right.
And it's always the horse's fault, and they're showing me up. and I've got to make them go nicely, otherwise I'm going to get this judgment on the yard or that judgment on the yard. And so sometimes how we worry about other people's judgments change how we actually want to be.
What, around our horse?
Around our horse,
Okay,
yeah.
in what ways?
By being short-tempered, having a lack of understanding.
Right.
And I think the biggest one is actually going against what you truly believe in the name of trying to be accepted and not be judged. So, I don't know, let's pick an example of somebody using a training aid like draw reins, because they want their horse to be round and look the part so it fits in with everybody, so they look like they're an effective rider. The horse fits in with the yard and everybody's opinions and judgments. Yet inside, the last thing they would ever really want to do is put that on their horse. So they're kind of battling with themselves on a daily basis to find their real truth and have the confidence to just be the truth and not to allow themselves to get caught up in other people's judgments, because other people's judgments are what they're judging about themselves, not about you anyway.
Well, sure, people have opinions, don't they, in life? It doesn't matter whether you're on a livery yard, whether you are out competing, whatever. There's opinions all over the place. I guess it's how we take on board the opinions and personalise it to ourselves that makes us feel we're being judged.
Yeah.
And sure, from my side of the work, it's one of the big areas for the students that they get into a place of judging themselves, sometimes judging themselves on how well somebody else on the course is actually doing, or just in general being quite judgmental on themselves. Perhaps their partners don't fully approve, or they're not as supportive as they would like them to be with the work that they're doing when for instance, when they come on the courses. So that's really important. But I always feel it's identifying. If we can identify that we've got this going on, then sure, we can do something about it, can't we?
Yeah, and we can find a way to let it go.
Absolutely. And it's a big thing for people, isn't it? We go out to people with their horses, and very much so, it's like, this is what people think of me. And half the time it isn't what people think of them at all. It's just what they perceive they think of them, because they've given them an opinion.
Yeah.
So there's opinions and there's judgment. Well, let's break that down. What is the difference between someone, on a yard saying, do you know what? In my opinion, you're doing that wrong. They go away and feel they've done it wrong, and then they start being judgmental on themselves.
I think, yeah.
Is that what happens?
I think, for me, maybe the easiest way for me to describe the difference between opinion and judgment is that somebody could have an opinion that your horse isn't going to be able to be a dressage horse. It hasn't got the talent or the ability to do it. That's their opinion. A judgment would be your horse hasn't got the ability to be a dressage horse because they're a Welsh cob.
Right, yeah.
So they're judging. You're judging that animal based on its breeding. So it's a little bit like you decide you don't like somebody because they're from a certain part of the country, or you don't like somebody because you don't like how they conduct themselves or the things that they do, things that they say. So the judgment for me is because assuming or making that judgment that somebody is a certain way, or you don't like them because of.
Right.
Whereas an opinion is, in my opinion, that isn't going to work, or and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about sort of the breed of the horse or the culture of the person or the surroundings, all of that. That's an opinion, you know?
Do you think people are too hard on themselves? I mean, I do. I think we're all too hard on ourselves.
I think we've created ourselves a society where we're also okay. Yes, we are, and ultimately we're hard on ourselves because we want to be the
Perfectionists.
best. But do we want to be the best for ourselves, or do we want to be the best liked?
Or how it comes across to other people.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we've got to understand, Matt. We've got to understand why, like you say, why are we doing it? Why do you guys do what you do with your horses? Are you doing it genuinely for the love of the horse, because it's your passion, your hobby, gives you that freedom? Or do you get caught up in everything else and start to be hard on yourself and push yourself to do things that perhaps you don't really want to do? Because that happens, doesn't it, as well?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where confidence comes in as well, because often we'll convince ourselves that we're just struggling with confidence with something, but actually it's just something we don't want to do.
So having because you say the word confidence, and I agree with you, and I think that's very important. Confidence, having the confidence in yourself, having that self-confidence. If we have that self-confidence in ourselves, are we less judgmental? I don't know, I'm just putting it out there.
Well, that leads me on to a whole different subject of my understanding between being confident and unconfident.
Yes, but if
somewhere in the middle.
But if we are confident, if we're confident beings, are we generally less judgmental about ourselves and other people?
Depends where that confidence is coming from. So if it's genuine, if we are genuinely confident within ourselves of who we are
and what we do,
yep, where we stand in the world, and we're not being driven into that confidence via ego, then yes, we're going to be a lot less judgmental, because we're not trying to patch up something that's lacking for ourselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, for people? I mean, I freely admit it's been difficult for me in the years gone by, not to be so harsh on myself and to feel that what I do is going to be judged by other people. I mean, you look at my work, and I mean, I go out and do animal communication. So I turn up at a yard and do something that's not tangible. You can't see anything happening. And with the horse is communicating with me through images, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and I'm feeding those back and being the voice for that animal to the carer. That was difficult for me before, when I was starting out, because if you can't actually see it, then it doesn't exist to a lot of people. I would start almost pre-thinking what they would be thinking. And then it would bother me, so, that I was being judged. Or I would turn up at a yard and I'd go and see, I don't know, Harry the horse. And then the husband would walk up and he'd go, all right, here we are. All right, then come on, tell us what you've got then. Let's hear this. Let's have a laugh. It's hard not to feel judged in those moments, even though you believe in yourself with what you do and you're absolutely true to yourself. It's really hard in those moments to not feel judged.
Do you know what? That's so true, because when you're really true to yourself and you're doing what you're passionate about, that doesn't mean you're having some perceivedly high-flying career. You're just passionate about what you're doing.
To whatever level.
To whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be tough to... because you're going to get judgments. Humans are judgmental machines. We judge other people. Yeah. It's part of our human nature.
Well, we do it all the time, though, Matt. I mean, I don't say I do it all the time, and I don't think you do it all the time either. But we all know that at times it happens, that we will look at somebody, or perhaps the way somebody's driving, or I don't know, anything, and make a judgment. But actually, somebody racing along the road really fast, overtaking us and nearly causing an accident, it's easy to judge that person that they're just an absolute raving lunatic.
It is, and
But the reality is, this could be a mother on the way to the school because just had a call to say that their child's had an accident. This could be somebody in their last moments in hospital and they're rushing to be with their loved ones. This could be all sorts. Or it could just be that they're late for a hairdresser appointment.
It could be, but
either way, we're putting a judgment on.
We are, and I guess there's the difference between, we can have an opinion or a judgment. So if my opinion would be, they're driving rather recklessly. They may have a very good reason, they may not, but they are still driving recklessly. My judgment would be, well, he's a bit of an idiot driving like that.
Yeah, but you see...
So I judged him for being an idiot, but actually...
You don't know.
I don't know.
But then we see an ambulance go by really fast with the blue flashing lights.
And the judgment changes quick.
The judgment's completely... Well, it's not there, is it?
No.
There's an acceptance. Again, we've got something tangible. So there is something in things that are tangible and things that aren't as to where we place judgment.
Absolutely.
So let's look at it from the point of view of a rider with the horse. So they're schooling the horse 4 times a week.
Yeah.
They don't feel they're making much improvement. And then a coach comes along, let's say you.
Yeah.
For want of a better person. I couldn't think of a better person. But
bless you.
You're all right, you're welcome. I'm just trying to cheer you up, in this lockdown.
I'll make you a cup of tea for that. Thanks,
that's
Babs.
really kind of you. But anyway, so... and they're schooling their horse 4 times a week. And they don't feel they're getting very far. And then their coach, you, comes along... And it's like, you know what? This is really, really good. And yet they've wasted all week beating themselves up that they're not getting anywhere. Because maybe for them, they're not getting where they want to be as quickly as they want to be there. And they're being judgmental.
And then what happens? They start judging their horse.
You must see it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Frustrating.
Yeah, and you know what? This is something that Pat Pirelli said many years ago, and it's stuck with me because it's so true. Frustration starts where knowledge ends.
Frustration starts where knowledge ends. I like that.
Because I generally find if I know how to solve a puzzle, I'm not going to say a problem because we all say it's problems, but if a puzzle is presented with the way I'm working with a horse or something in life, if I know the steps I need to take to solve it, it's not frustrating. If I don't know, then it's frustrating because you're stuck with that puzzle, unable to get past it.
Equally, you may feel you've got past that puzzle. That there's plenty of people.
Get another one, then.
I mean, we're being judgmental ourselves here, but we're just putting out examples that may resonate with people where you've perhaps feel that you've done really well, for instance, with what you've progressed with your horse, with your schooling or whatever. Maybe you're jumping,
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm doing 90s. I'm flying over the 90s, and then somebody, comes along, and it's like, right, we need to go back to the beginning
Let's
again.
start again, shall we?
Now, what's going to go through the thoughts with that person? They thought they were doing so well. And, for them they were.
Well,
But then someone else comes along with an opinion. Or is it an opinion? I guess as a coach, it's not.
I guess there's a difference between me going along...
Or a coach in general.
Yeah, as a coach to help them improve what they've already achieved, and somebody else standing on the sidelines who isn't even doing it and then saying, you're rubbish. Because then there's that sort of whole comparison thing and you get into lots of different places. So, but yeah, I think we should always be pleased with our progress and what we're doing and the effort we're putting in, and avoid getting a little bit big-headed about stuff because we've always got places to learn and grow and develop. And the biggest, like in the horse world, probably the most common arena for feeling disappointment is the dressage arena, because let's face it, we're cantering or trotting down the centre line to be judged, and we've gone there in our mind of this is all great, this is going like this, and the judge, what reflects back from the judge isn't what we anticipated. Then we go home and we're really hard on ourselves rather than just saying, looking at it, that in that moment, now that judge is there to judge what they see, but we take it as personal attack.
Well, absolutely, and we end up imprisoning ourselves with that overthinking, because it may not be an extreme that we're standing in front of the judge saying, "Oh no, sir, not me, sir, I didn't do that, sir," as the judge pulls the hammer down and says, "You're sentenced to 10 years."
Well,
but you know what? But I have to say, Matt, we do a really good job of sentencing ourselves regardless. We don't need a judge, we don't need the wig, and we don't need the hammer. It happens anyway.
Well, do you know what?
Doesn't it? All the time. We judge ourselves, then we go and put ourselves back into we imprison ourselves. Oh, okay, you know, I'll just go back into my box on that one now. Why?
Well, do you know what?
Why does this happen?
An example of where I actually unprisoned myself was...
Did you break out of jail?
Yeah, I did.
Is this something nobody knows about you, that you're
well,
actually in prison?
Only in my head.
Babe, you never even told me you were in prison.
It's only in my head, babe. It's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, but that's not a great place to be.
It's not a great place.
That's actually worse sometimes, because it's not tangible.
Exactly.
There you go.
So, when I was competing a lot, very regularly, and I was working my way up to... in fact, I'd just entered my first advanced test because I wanted to qualify at Pre-St George. Then I came off and broke my back. So
nasty.
I had a period of time out of work, out of riding. And then I took one of my horses, who was Grand Prix trained, out, and because it was really light, easy ride, although he was a bit spooky and this, that and the other, but I went, I'm just going to go and have fun today. And I had not been in the saddle for quite a while. So I went out and I did this test. And I can't remember what test it was, but I completely and utterly made a hash of one of the moves. And when I finished, the judge said to me, she says, "Right then, Matt, have you forgotten how to do a simple change?" And I was like, "No, why?" She said, "You are not supposed to, what was it? You're not supposed to trot, you're supposed to walk. I suggest you go back to your coach and you explain to her that you don't know what the hell you're doing." Now, in that moment, because I was so elated.
That wasn't just an opinion, was it?
No, that was her
professional...
That was her professional judgment of me as a rider.
Yeah, but was it judgment, Matt?
At that time.
Was it judgment?
That's how I took it.
Right.
Firstly, I did. Because in my mind, I was like, do you know what? I've just come out to have some fun. I'm glad I managed to stay on and I'm not in pain. But I laughed about it.
Yeah, at least give me some credit for that, love.
Well, kind of what I said. I said, thanks for that. And I explained the situation. But you know what? She was there to judge me. I'd entered myself in that level of test. I presented a poor test, right? So
Well, you put yourself in the firing line.
Exactly. So I just laughed it off. I had no personal feeling back towards her. And I understood that she was doing what I'd paid my £14 for her to do. Therefore, it wasn't a personal judgment.
Or a personal attack.
It was, from what I've seen today, this is where you're at. And I had to accept that because it was true that day.
It's a really good scenario. I mean, real life, obviously, but it's a really good example, Matt. So, I mean, we've talked loads about it today, but it really is. So if we break it down... Judgments, the only real judgments that come into your life are generally from yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you love yourself enough, then you won't see it as judgment. And if you feel judgment coming in, it's a warning sign to take a look at myself and say, right, okay, where's this coming from? What am I not doing to the best of my ability? What have I let slack? What could I do better? Or actually, sometimes, you know what? I've done all I can.
And I'm okay with that.
And I'm okay with that. And then let it go. Because you know what? The world is full of opinions. It's not going to go away. Not even in lockdown, guys. It's there to stay. Okay? And we talk about it all the time. You've got your lane, you stay in that, let other people stay in theirs.
And let your light shine in that
And let
lane.
your light shine. A bit like that song, isn't it? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it... Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah. So the question I have, as we come to a close, is do judgments, yours or other people's, serve you?
Absolutely not.
Indeed.
Absolutely not. So what we're saying is, you're getting into judgment, it's coming from you. You're locking yourself in a cage, you're putting yourself in prison.
Absolutely.
You better make sure you've got some tools with you to get out of that.
Indeed.
And that's where we help people, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love doing it.
Me too. Well, thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you, Rico.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I'd love that cup of tea now, please.
Oh, I'll go and put kettle on.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
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 Toodle pip,
You love
everyone.
that word, don't you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Toodle pip. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.